Dr. Ashley Naidoo, thank you so much for joining me today on Aesthetically Speaking. And we're going to be talking today about your skincare range, BiomeRenew, and talking about skincare in general, which is my favorite subject in this whole world. So thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me on. I know it's a odd thing having an orthopedic surgeon here, so we'll delve into that a bit and the question of why.
Yes, you jumped the gun there. I was going to say that through the years, I've met so many dermatologists. I've met plastic surgeons who have come up with their own skincare ranges. But this is so unusual. Tell us about the story.
So I'm an upper limb surgeon. I practice quite a high amount of my surgeries in the shoulder, elbow, wrist, and hand area. And it's a very visible part of someone's body, especially if they're wearing strappy clothing as well. So there was always a want to try and improve wound care and scar management and so on, because it's like an external signature of what we do. And I wouldn't say original as the first orthopedic surgeon to do this. I mean, you would have heard of brands like Barbara Sturm from the EU. She's an orthopedic surgeon.
Oh, okay.
And South Africa's best export from a surgeon perspective was Chris Barnard. And I mean, we all know he was the foundations of a clinic in Switzerland in terms of anti-aging skincare.
Yes, that's right.
And that's how he retired. So the realities are our space came from something that was a need of our patients. We were looking for something biologic, something that was going to help with scarring initially as our thought process. And then we landed upon the growing field of the microbiome. And it took a lot of work with quite a few practitioners, as well as work with some cosmetic formulators, as well as some scientists to look at how to influence this space to get and extract as much improvement in the scars as well as skin conditioning that we could get. And from there, the rest is a bit of a ball that's gathering no moss. It's growing in the world that the microbiome is something that we all have to go and look after.
Yes.
And from there, it spawned itself in many directions that 10 years ago I wouldn't have even thought it would have.
Yes.
But the reality is it's something that we all need.
Yes. So everybody that reads anything to do with health is familiar with the gut biome. So where does the microbiome come into in relation to skin?
So that's an interesting one, right? So we have a microbiome, which is an ecosystem between bacteria, fungi, and viruses on every epithelial line surface in the body, right? So you'll have this in your mouth, for example, in your lung. You'll have a microbiome in the vagina. There's a microbiome on the skin, on your scalp. And different areas have different exposures, and they lead to a different colony or balance that exists there. Now, when it comes to that microbiome, it's all about balance. Everything has to be in equilibrium, right? The yin and the yang, the good and the bad. Even a good bacteria can be harmful if it is in abundance. So the reality of where we need to be when it comes to the microbiome is to find a way to balance it. This is not something that man or medicine has invented. No, the microbiome is something that walks the road with us. There's a lot of fun facts there. 2 to 3 kgs of your body weight is actually bacteria. Yes. People don't know this. You carry this around. There's more of them than there are of you. And I think the reality here was, if we look at trying to gauge skin health, the gut microbiome was a good touch point. Fermented foods was a good touch point.
Yes.
I mean, I'd like to bring this in. What kombucha was and what kimchi was for the gut microbiome was postbiotics, the thing we're focusing on in BiomeRenew. Postbiotics for your skin. You have specialized systems of bacteria that exist on your skin in different areas. And what we've created here is more or less kombucha for your skin. It's fermented skincare from a point of view that it will balance and restore that ecosystem in your skin. All
right, so you've jumped the gun again, because let's establish, just for the sake of the viewers, the difference between the probiotics that we take every morning to balance our gut and the postbiotics that you talk about that exist in this skincare range.
Okay, that's a great question, right? So you can't talk microbiome without differentiating.
Exactly,
right?
Yes.
So there's 4 groups actually, right? So there's prebiotics, which are fibers, and the prebiotic fibers are what the bacteria actually ingest. It's their food, right?
Yes.
And then you have your probiotics, which are actually the live bacteria themselves.
Yes.
And then you have postbiotics, which are a combination of lysates, and this comes down to things like enzymes, peptides, short-chain fatty acids, and breakdown products of what that bacteria produces once it ingests that peptide. Now, this is what directly influences the skin. And currently in the market, there's people that are comparing using prebiotics with postbiotics to try and balance both sides without influencing the bacteria. And I know you're going to ask the question, but if we're looking at probiotics, why didn't we go there if that's where the magic is, the bacteria?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
If we think about it this way, I like to talk about it like in farming in the Karoo or something, right? If I want to grow oranges and I have the best seed in the worst land, or I have the worst seed in the best land, I'm still not going to get a crop. Harvesting
Correct.
that orange is what I want, right? And if we look at it this way, if you deliver postbiotics, you're giving the effect of what that bacteria will do. There's a reason it doesn't grow on you anymore. You may not be able to change your genetics. You may not be able to change your environment, but you can influence your microbiome by delivering a better, favorable homestead for where these things have to live.
Yes.
Right? And this is the kind of viewpoint that we will go from, on our product range in the long term.
Okay, great. All right. So then and just going back to what you said about peptides, isn't that the buzzword at the moment? Everybody's raving on and on about peptides, and we have them.
So the basis is, degradation products that come from something like a bacteria fermenting will break down a lot of these proteins and enzymatic processes. Yes. And we also find that part of the bacterial cell walls and components of the bacteria themselves actually influence changes on your skin as well. Yes. So, the current international definition of a postbiotic actually has to show bacterial cellular components. So that's an interesting one. Yes. It's no longer just the cream of the ferment.
Let's talk about the postbiotic that is used in BiomeRenew.
Right. So Lactosporin.
Yes.
Right. So it's an ingredient that in the Northern Hemisphere is slowly gathering its space, but it's been through a lot of rigorous scientific processes. Lactosporin is a very interesting ingredient. It works as an antioxidant. It works as an anti-aging agent, and we'll dive into that a bit as the conversation matures. But it also helps as an antimicrobial. So it does help to ward off the pathogenic bacteria in the same space. So what you have here is something that can be used around procedures. It started with surgeries. It started with burns. It started with a lot more serious conditions. Now, if it could have its space and time in our practices in those spaces, imagine with your day-to-day injury to the skin, be it from burns of other sorts, environment changes, post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation, as well as the lesions that come along with a damaged skin barrier.
Yes.
If we can repair skin in a favorable manner after surgery, repairing a barrier should be a portion thereof.
Yes. And the name, again, of course, you're bringing in the biome and the renewal.
Yes.
The renewal of cells. Yes. Okay, it's fascinating. Let's talk about the benefits. You did touch on a few, but let's just, for the sake of the viewers, let's list the benefits that one gets from postbiotics, one being obviously an anti-inflammatory benefit. What are the others?
So inflammation is a big one. If you look at it in the skin, it's central to a lot of conditions, right? So if you bring in the conditions like acne, for example, right?
Yes.
You have enzymatic processes that are happening there. If you look at 5-alpha reductase that works on the testosterone pathways, you get an overexpression sometimes in patients that have acne. Okay. So we can't say that using a topical agent is going to be a cure for acne.
No.
But if you deal with the engine in the skin where you express it, and this is a central point to conditions like acne, eczema, psoriasis, and damaged skin barriers, even from procedures that we do, right? I mean, if we influence harmful actives to try and remove or renew the skin as such in the format of peels and microneedling and all of these things, we influence a sort of trauma to the skin, right? And we know that we want the layers beneath to show themselves, and we all want to recover as fast as we can. What happened to the biome in that right? It was your first line of defense. It doesn't know what these things are. So the reality is if we bring back your microbiome in a safe and sustainable way, if we bring back that healing, it happens with the postbiotic. If you think about it this way, if the bacteria were there and able to influence healing, they would be producing postbiotics for that purpose. So with Lactosporin, the anti-aging side, I think especially in the aesthetics market, needs to be said, right? So it's an anti-glycation agent. So you're going to affect the glucose use at that area. See, bacteria and glucose. You're going to take it back to some simple science there, right? Now, glycation end products, as we all know, is the AGEs that are expressed, is something that everyone wants to try and talk about when it comes to anti-aging, right? So lactosporin has been proven to have an effect on this, right?
Okay.
It has an effect on hyaluronidase, collagenase, and elastase. So your skin elasticity, your firmness of your skin, the collagen content of your skin, and the hydration of your skin. By influencing those enzymes, by inhibiting them, which is what lactosporin has been proven to do, you now are retaining good collagen, you're retaining moisture in the areas it needs to be, and supporting your elastin fibers so that the skin remains as taut as it should be.
So skin texture will benefit definitely. And I mean, it sounds absolutely brilliant. Let's go back to the actives that you mentioned that are, let's just to use that dreadful phrase, all the rage. And I profess myself completely guilty of, at one stage, definitely over exfoliating or, doing peels or whatever. And of course, that skin barrier is compromised. Now, personally, I have Mediterranean skin, so quite hardy. But I know that with very sensitive skin, this can be very, very damaging. How do we re-educate ourselves to go back to basics?
That's a good thing, back to basics. And I like that you brought in Mediterranean, so you'll know all about the yogurt facial, right? That was a Greek culture, right? And that was, again, a ferment that came from the milk, right? From the yogurt.
Absolutely.
And that was a postbiotic in nature.
Yes, and
right?
Cleopatra's habit of, so they said, of bathing in milk.
Yeah. And I mean, Korean skincare is big in our population as well. So fermented skincare, it's all based around the same science.
Yes.
Right? It's a thing that existed long before. It's centuries ago that people have been doing this. But coming back to your question on that, what I would say is there's a high amount of actives that are present in the market in high concentrations as well. We look towards, as our premise, being synergism. So you will find some of these actives in here. You find ceramides, which is great for repairing the skin barrier. It's nice to go to war if you have soldiers and a wall, right?
Yes.
So in the same way, if we are bolstering the microbiome to be your first line of defense, and if we are supplementing basically your skin barrier with the ceramides as well, we're giving you dual defenses to these kind of exogenous stresses. If we look at agents like hyaluronic acid, now we just told you that the active influences the enzyme that breaks down hyaluronic acid. So while helping you retain the hyaluronic acid that you have innately in your skin, we're now adding to that in a smaller amount that we would have to if we didn't have that agent. So this is why we say it's synergism. We can get more effect by looking at the engine and the fuel rather than the engine alone, right? And in the same way, if we look at niacinamide, it's fantastic ingredient.
Fantastic,
and it works very well with post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation. It's an anti-inflammatory in its own nature as well. So if we go back to acne, for example, right? We influence the enzyme that is dealing with the testosterone pathway. We are now saying that we are influencing pigmentation after lesions, and we're an anti-inflammatory to reduce the size of the lesion. Right? But current literature with lactosporin is also showing that it is equally effective and works faster than benzoyl peroxide. It's been proven and published. And if we look at adapalene gel, it's a similar thing. That's a newer study that actually says the same, that it has an equivalent action without the after effects that people are worried about.
And you need a script for that.
100%. So this is something that works in a natural space that is now being proven to be equally effective. And it's going to be more approachable for our population to be able to get to it.
Yes. And I just love the science behind it, because this is it. These are science-backed products. Let's talk about the products, actually. Now, I remember doing a review in a couple of years back where the packaging was in black and white.
Yeah.
And now recently you've had a relaunch of beautiful packaging, and it does differentiate somewhat, so that we know that in the green there's the more enriched products. Can you just take us through?
Yeah, so I'll take you through the vision point in this. So it's basically tones that are calming, gentle, appealing in a way for that nature, because our products are in that space. You know, we are FEA, we are fragrance, essential oil and alcohol free, paraben free, we are SLES free. You know, we're trying to get to everyone. If we can get to them, we shouldn't have to segment it. Now, the black and white is very polarizing. As a medical person, you know, we live there. We think it's the bee's knees, and it wasn't. And I think it was just too intimidating to the person. And what we want to do is make postbiotics approachable. So that was one angle. If you look at our logo, we had a change. We incorporated hexagonal elements into this just to give an undertone to the epithelium. We incorporated icons across the front, as well as listing hero ingredients. And a lot of this was done tastefully, so that at eye level with somebody in a retail or practice perspective, you get to know what is there. You get to know why it's there in a way, and how I'm going to use it just by a quick glance, right? When it comes to how we formatted our range, it's quite vast looking when you look at it like this, but I can break it down for you perhaps, that we are trying for a simplistic approach to skincare, right?
Yes.
So if we're looking at how people cleanse, at the moment we've got a gel cleanser, which has a small percentage of AHA in it, and that's on the basis of obviously the acne in our population. As high as 30% of South Africans are dealing with acne. That's a big number. And if we look at the cleanser itself, it's SLES free, which is great for us in terms of that marketplace itself when people don't want to be using SLES these days. And you look at a little bit goes a long way in terms of the non-SLES surfactant that we've used in this. And this lends itself a lot to our acne market, and we call it a normal to oily skin that we would use this for. The glycerin bar is another one that passes itself around with the cleansing side of things. It's very gentle. It's got aloe in it, aloe extracts itself, and it's probably, I would like to say, the only postbiotic impregnated glycerin bar in circulation in Africa at the moment, which is great for us.
And I have to interject here and say that the range is suitable for all the family, the whole family, because I have mature skin. I have used the glycerin bar. I don't get that tight, pulled feeling that mature skin does get after you wash it. So very, very gentle.
And from there, I mean, I like that. So, I mean, we've had exposure from children right up, you know, to the elderly. I think one of our oldest users was like 98 or something, you know.
I was going to say I have used the enriched cream on my mum, who's just turned 90, and suffers from quite dry, fragile skin, and it's really, really made a difference. Babies. Yeah. And babies.
And babies as well. Look, infantile eczema is another space that we've been working in as well. So if we're looking at our moisturizer, just to bring that one in, I mean, part of our packaging was to go for these pump tubes. And I can tell you it empties it out. It gives you more of the product out so there isn't wastage. But the moisturizer itself lends itself very well for a quick application. It's something that absorbs well. You know, people always have this concern, and we try to take our customers' queries and feedback into consideration when we design things. So this is a very fast absorbing and light moisturizer, and it works very well. I'm going to bring in the discussion on UV related matters here.
Yes, please.
But you know, in vitro, lactosporin has been proven to have an effect on dermal fibroblasts and allowing those components of the skin to survive UVA and UVB. Now, just 0.5% of lactosporin has, in a 30-minute period, about 50% cover against UVA in that scenario and 30% against UVB. So you see that's a significant number for
Yes.
something that isn't claiming to be an SPF.
And that's
right?
why you said that you didn't incorporate the SPFs.
100%. It's not a barrier. It's not
Yes.
a mineral sunscreen. It's something that works on cellular components to protect it from UV-related damage and apoptosis.
Right.
So in the current conventions of what we call a sunscreen, it doesn't belong in us calling it that. But it
Yes.
is assisting you with reducing the damage that comes from sun exposure.
Yes.
So if you pair this with a sunscreen, you have dual protection inside and out.
Yes.
You can apply sunscreen to an organelle in a way. And it's how we want to focus that. Now, the serum is again, it's a water-based serum. It's very light. It absorbs very nicely. People have called it like butter.
Yeah.
That,
Well, I've just tried it and it's just gone straight into my skin.
So it's about delivery
lovely.
mechanisms to get that postbiotic in.
Yes.
And we believe that, sure, it would be great to sell you everything to use as a routine. But the reality is sometimes you may be looking for something in a space of a serum to help with certain concerns. Now, we know that the postbiotic is multifaceted in the concerns it can address. So we are building formats so that you can incorporate it. Everyone should have postbiotics in their day-to-day life in some way. And it's the same way we are looking at incorporating it. If we look at the ointment, that was a very interesting one. It found its way into aesthetics for a variety of reasons, but principally, I would say, initially when we built it, it had gathering in the dermatology space in very hard eczema plaques, as well as cracked heels and elbows, and it worked its way onto lips for some
Psoriasis.
reason in the EU. And the reality in the aesthetics market was it's being used as a post procedure occlusion dressing of sorts.
Yes.
People are using this after their peels, channeling,
Or after
microneedling.
microneedling, yes.
Biopsies that the dermatologists are doing currently, they're using this pretty close after that. And I mean, we know, there's celebrities that were all about this glazed donut, right? You know where it came from? It came from the US when a celebrity there did a peel together with utilizing a postbiotic to recover, and that's what blew it up, right?
Oh, wow.
So we're all about the glazed donut, but we don't know what the glazing is, right? So it's the postbiotic. So, so if you picture the amount of people that do aesthetics treatments and facials and microneedling, it's massive.
No, it's massive. It's huge. It's overwhelming.
And if we can get you back to your day-to-day faster, if we can get you to recover from that trauma faster, it's not a question of whether you should or shouldn't do something, but I believe just like surgery is necessary for certain components of things that need to be done, so will these treatments be as well. And in that basis, utilizing a postbiotic can get you out there faster, reduce that impact on you. And that's where we want, we want to help the customer get to the other side.
So you were saying earlier that if I am using a particular moisturizer that I just know and love, but I want to introduce my postbiotics into my skincare regime, I could start with perhaps the serum and apply that before.
Yes. And it absorbs pretty quickly. It's
Very
not going to
quickly.
interfere with any other actives. It's a lot of our ingredients have been cross-tested against, counter actions with other products as well. And I can tell you, it's about getting the postbiotic in. Delivery mechanisms is everything in this game. The enriched cream is the one that I want to bring in as well here. Is the enriched cream actually was developed more along the lines of people with very dry skin concerns and the eczema market as
this
well.
one?
Yeah,
right.
It's these two.
And
So it comes in two formats. It comes in a tube that's
this
more
portable. This is the whopping
then,
400.
Because once you get onto this, you'll realize that you want to use it, in higher volumes. And for us, accessibility and reach in a household is big, right? So if you think about it this way, certain conditions like eczema run in families.
Correct.
A tub like that could spread across, various users. We see that with us stocking allergology clinics at the moment, pediatric clinics at the moment that are treating, a few siblings with eczema using that, bring it into the household, let it spread there. On the enriched cream itself, we're very proud of that one. It's the first one of our range that actually scored an award. We won the Glamour Beauty Award last year.
I believe
for that. And look, it was some recognition, but I believe, it's not so much about those parts of life. I think for us, the real award was actually the feedback we get on users of the enriched cream. Although marketed as something more for the body, if someone is suffering from a dry skin concern, more often than not, they could utilize this in their day as a facial moisturizer.
Yes.
Remember, it's still loaded with a high amount of humectants and things that are going to help you with hydration in that skin.
Correct.
So some people even use it as a night cream. And it's even broken across a few other facets. I've got colleagues in the medical space that were diagnosed with cancer, and during radiotherapy and chemotherapy, utilized the enriched cream as a cream-based soap for them to shower with. And we find this out as we go.
As you go along.
The reality is the fact that it can survive in those scenarios tells you how gentle and tells you how sensitive a skin type we can aim for.
And that's amazing. And I have to bring in affordability at this point, because I commend you on the fact that I think the most expensive range, or rather price, is probably the $4.95, which is for the big tub, which is amazing, because in this economy, first of all, I'm sure for some viewers they think skincare is a necessity, and for others it's a luxury. And to make it affordable to the whole household, as well as can we say where the viewers can find it?
Yeah, well, we can. Look, we've had a recent launch to retail.
Yes.
And, it was quite a proud moment for us at that moment in time to get that recognition as well.
Absolutely.
We've been taken up by clicks to stock them. We're in 100 stores countrywide at the moment. Obviously, we can say the word selected then, but usually the larger malls have them. And it's our start point to trying and reaching the consumer better. South Africa has a strong online market presence for skincare as well in certain LSMs, but the vast majority of people want to touch and feel something, want to be at a shelf, and want to cumulatively buy their goods in one place to take up a certain amount of time in their day. And this is why we felt getting to retail was a big move, but it was a necessary one. We don't want to be reductive to hold this into an area where people can't get to it.
Yes,
and from a pricing point of view, we're not priced this way by chance. We'd been approached by pharmaceutical corporates that I'm not going to mention in our early stages that actually saw value in us. And we realized from the point of engaging these discussions where the touch point of the South African customer is sitting in most of our LSMs. And in those spaces, if you have a shared spend between people to bring skincare into the household, you will have a better spend for that family. So what we are trying to do is to enter a home and to provide an affordable touch point so that we can get this done. We can get microbiome care into your household. And this ranges well beyond just the beauty aspect of things. It's the skin health at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
It's reducing your cost of visitations on the basis of flare-ups of your conditions. You can think about it that way, right? If you reduce your flare-ups of eczema or acne or psoriasis, you're less likely to be on prescription drugs.
Correct.
You're less likely to be in hospital scenarios for longer periods. So, there's a loss of income that comes from people that are suffering certain conditions as well.
Yeah.
And we all know that people with clearer skin have better access to jobs even. It's a proven fact in the international market is that the way we look still influences this. As much as we don't like to say that, but it's a reality.
It's a reality.
And it should be for everyone to get to good skin health. I like to say this one in most of our articles is that beautiful looking skin is not always healthy. But healthy skin is always beautiful.
Functional, healthy skin. So if I were a consumer and I didn't know where to start, doctor, and I went to my local Clicks pharmacy, which we all love dearly and always go there for one thing and come out with several, what would your recommendation be to start with? Say 3 products. I'm going to nail you down to 3 basic products.
I would say it's going to be based on your concern that you're trying to approach. But I would say if we had to look at the enriched cream, it's something that once you start to utilize it, you'll understand the value of this in terms of bolstering your microbiome in a more vast area. It's something that you can use on your face and body.
So multifunctional, which I absolutely love.
A moisturizer, I would say, is not a bad starting point as well. It's allowing you to see in an area that you will look at more commonly what the effect is going to be on you in terms of turning these conditions around. Yeah. And I would say somewhere between the type of skin, a cleanser, right? And I would say this touches on a lot more applications, right? You know, the guy we didn't really speak about is the guy where it all started, right? Outside of that question, I'm going to say the scar cream, right? The scar cream, just people have asked this question. It's cute and little, but why so little? But it's jam-packed, right? The highest percentage of lactosporin mil for mil is sitting in there, right? Yes. That you can use for spot treatment in areas where you've got breakouts, in areas where you've got burns, in areas where you are trying to bring out pigmentation faster. You know, our eczema marketplace is using this for allergic shiners, you know, the dark marks that you have around your eyes. Again, you know, it's because of the higher percentage of the lactosporin, it's helping in that scenario. So I would say, yes, this would be the start point. The other agents are a bit more along the format of what you want to add on. So example is you've got a great routine, but you're looking for something to incorporate postbiotics is a night ointment. You could probably go with the ointment. Or the serum, if it's something that you want a quick access point to apply the postbiotics without interfering with what you're currently using. It's also a good option.
And I mean, just going back to multifunctionality of a product, and I just love using a product like the enriched cream as a mask, because sometimes, especially after the winter season, I find that I have dryness, I have dullness, and I pop that on and then I go about my business at home doing whatever stuff I need to do, and I leave it on quite thickly and like a mask, you know. Things like that can be done, or as you said, used as a lip salve, amongst other things, cuticles.
Well, the ointment, ointment's actually the one that you know, we didn't realize it until we started to export to the EU. We've got a distributor in the EU that's taken on this to try and grow it in their market, and dermatologists in the EU started to utilize that as a lip balm and using it around the cuticles and dry areas, and that's where we had the notion that, you know, there's a multiplicity of what we can achieve with this.
Absolutely. Oh, we could go on and on. One last thing, I want you to just affirm that what I'm saying is true, that pre-teens should not be using actives. Teenagers should not be using these active, harsh ingredients on skin. They should be going back to basics.
Look, the reality is actives are there for correction of certain consequences, and it's something that lives in adulthood. I think it's our marketplace currently that portrays a higher percentage of an active is better for someone. Yes. I think the viewpoint of going back to basics, looking after your skin barrier and your skin health, you will have less appearance of things like your acne lesions and your eczema and so on. And anti-aging is something that's a big discussion point, you know, like younger generations feel that if I start this now, I won't age. That's not quite a proven thing. You know? But if you look at a robust and a healthy microbiome, that will outlive you. You know, the reality of life is we carry bacteria around us in a certain format, and you know, it will be our children and their children and their children and their children that will do the same, right? That will outlive any active that we think is popular today. And I think the reality comes back to those basic practices that were out there in ancient civilizations that dealt with fermentation, that dealt with caring for the microbiome. And if you revert back to those practices from early life, you will have a sustainable ecosystem, and you will have an immune system that will keep you away from a lot of these conditions.
Oh, lovely. Thank you so much, Doctor. We offered a bit of philosophy in our conversation today, to take the middle road with everything we do. Thank you so much again for taking time out, for being with Aesthetically Speaking today. I hope we can do this again sometime.
Oh yeah, look, I'm happy to talk microbiome any day of the week.
Lovely.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.